Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Zay News Live and welcome to this English news edition. Coming up next. President Bouteflika is back to the country after a visit to Geneva for medical checkups. Plus, an aid convoy in solidarity with Sahrawi people was launched this morning from Central Trade Union and FCU Forum headquarters in the capital, Algiers. And later on in our news program, South Africa's High Court has ruled that a decision to drop 783 corruption charges against President Jacob Zuma should be reviewed. Hello there again, and thanks for joining us. First in our top stories, as announced by the Presidency of the Republic, in a communiqué, President of the Republic President Bouteflika has returned today, Friday, to Algeria after a private visit to Geneva, Switzerland, during which he underwent periodic medical checkups. President Bouteflika headed for Geneva last Sunday. The much controversial contractual teachers controversy seems to be abating when Prime Minister Abdelmalek Sellal extended the deadlines for the registrations of teachers' hiring contest, from which an overwhelming majority has registered, some later than others, to take the hiring contest tomorrow, Saturday, after marathonic negotiations with the concerned ministry. Lamia Ashush.
Prime Minister Abdelmalek Sellal issued instructions to delay the final deadlines of the teachers' hiring contest registrations, due to be held this Saturday, for those contractual teachers that haven't submitted their candidacy yet. This comes as the last chance for the contractual teachers who expressed their satisfaction with the decision after their marathonic negotiations with the ministry concerned, which insisted more than once on applying the rule of law, calling for them to end their strike movement. The latter were striking in Boudoua municipality in Boumerdès province near Algiers for about 2 consecutive weeks, after having marched for a week from the province of Béjaïa on their way to the capital. The protest movement ended with all the contractual teachers registering in the upcoming recruitment contest, as confirmed by the Minister of National Education. Meanwhile, representatives of the contractual teachers said that between 95 and 99% of them registered for the contest, which indicates the effectiveness of the guarantees made by the government to the latter, especially those of valuing professional experience and keeping those who fail the contest in their contractual posts. The teachers' hiring contest stirred a lot of controversy and put the sector's unions into high alert, as 3 major ones decided to boycott the organization of the contest in solidarity with the striking teachers, even though the striking movement mostly vanished on the eve of the hiring contest.
An aid convoy in solidarity with Sahrawi people was launched this morning from both Central Trade Union and FCU Forum headquarters in the capital, Algiers. It was loaded with humanitarian aid to head towards Oran province to join a second convoy over there. On the 1st of May, these 2 convoys will head towards the Sahrawi refugee camps. Lamia Ashush again.
In preparation for the official celebrations of Labor Day, the Central Trade Union wanted to use this occasion to show solidarity with the brotherly Sahrawi people. To that effect, a convoy was launched from the People's Palace in Algiers, loaded with humanitarian aid towards the city of Oran, before heading towards the Sahrawi refugee camps on May 1st in an attempt to elevate their suffering.
من أرض وشعب.
We are a people that inherited the struggle spirit, the revolutions, the fight for just causes, and standing beside oppressed people, especially those brothers of ours, a neighboring country and people, that of Western Sahara. This aid convoy is not the first one and won't be the last. We will keep our support until freedom and independence are obtained.
The Polisario Front, for its part, praised the solidarity initiative of Algerian workers towards their Sahrawi brethren, especially in a time when their case is going through a critical time in the UN Security Council.
We're very thankful for this initiative, which comes in a tough time for the Sahrawi cause, especially in the UN Security Council, with lots of conspiracies conducted by France specifically.
What may be more important than the humanitarian convoy of aid is the message carried by the Central Trade Union to the international community. On Labor Day, the message conveyed is that the Sahrawi workers are suffering and are subjected to the worst kinds of exploitation by the Moroccan occupation, working in slave-like conditions.
In other national news, Algerian businessman Jilali Mehr is expected to inaugurate Gazelle d'Or touristic complex next September. Gazelle d'Or is one of the largest touristic investments in the south of the country and luxurious facility in the Algerian Sahara, which will make of the latter an excellent touristic destination. Hence Minaras.
Jilali Mehri complex, one of the largest complexes and touristic compounds in the southern region of the country, has set up a project through an investment that exceeded 7.8 billion dinars. The Gazelle d'Or complex would finally be ready in a few months' time. The project, which was launched in September 2008, situated just 5 kilometers away from Oued region, South Algeria, on an area of 140 hectares, characterized with an urban Islamic architectural style, also fits the southern region's nature. More than 20,000 palm trees have been planted, with laying giant doors on entrances to symbolize the doors of Algeria.
In addition to being a touristic compound for both foreign and local tourism, it can host international seminars in sectors like tourism and also training sessions. It is, after all, a large space. We're also planning to organize international fairs to promote for our local products.
An Algerian businessman investment project that has seen the light thanks to a touristic partnership with the French international group Accor for the establishment of more than 30 hotels like Ibis and Novotel hotels, considered an important addition to the Algerian south, which suffered a significant shortfall in hotels and touristic facilities capable of attracting tourists and promoting the region's tourism.
And now it's time for me to be joined by Mustafa Azouk, who has prepared for us the most important national and international highlights of this week. Let's see what he has prepared for us.
Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to your weekly segment, World in a Week, where we take you through this week's top and trending stories. In Moscow, Prime Minister Abdelmalek Salel held talks with his Russian counterpart Dmitry Medvedev on the occasion of the official visit he paid to Russia. In his speech, Mr. Salel highlighted Algeria's willingness to strengthen the economic partnership between Algiers and Moscow, underlining that Algeria relies on the diversification of its national economy to free itself from hydrocarbons dependency. In this regard, he underlined that Algeria possesses major potentials in the field of agriculture, inviting the Russian side to further boost the partnership in this sector. To this effect, the Algerian-Russian business meeting was crowned by signing more than 10 accords in various sectors of endeavor, notably the industrial and agricultural sectors. For his part, the FC president seized the opportunity to address several points related to the business climate in Algeria, notably the win-win strategy that the FC sees efficient in establishing joint ventures. Moving on to another story. Former Energy Minister Shakib Khalil sat down with Zay News in a very exclusive interview and talked about his frequent visits to the zawiyas or religious schools, which stirred controversy recently. He said that he goes there out of nostalgia to childhood memories. The former energy minister further elaborated on various economy-related matters, including the investment code, where he stated that Algeria needs to reconsider amending it. To this regard, Mr. Shakib Khalil wondered why so many important projects in the sector have not been achieved yet. The thing that could have pushed the Algerian economic wheel forward and avoided Algeria so many crises. Moving on to another story. The repercussions of the French campaign, which targeted Algeria last few days, is still ongoing and still provoking further disgruntled reactions at both the formal and the informal levels. This is eventually pushing the bilateral relations between Algeria and France to further tension, according to observers' opinions. The tension may not be limited to political and diplomatic relations, but its aftershocks may extend to economic and trade cooperation between the two nations. To another story. In the cooperation field, Minister of Maghreb Affairs, African Union and Arab League, Mr. Abdelkader Messahel, paid a working visit to Syria this week, in which he presided the ministerial delegation that took part in the Algerian-Syrian follow-up committee. Mr. Messahel discussed with his Syrian counterparts various aspects of cooperation between the two countries and ways to upgrade and expand different fields. The visit had geopolitical dimensions as it comes in a time of regional alliances between opposers of Al-Assad regime and its supporters, and Algeria seems to be taking a clear stance in the Syrian conflict. In a sports-related matter, Leicester City forward Riyad Mahrez has become the first Algerian and African football player ever to receive the English Professional Footballers Association Player of the Year award. The winner of the award is decided by players across the Football League and the Women's Super League in England, who all have a chance to cast a vote. This season, Mahrez has helped to put his team at the top of the league, scoring 17 goals and making 11 assists in 34 games. Mahrez and his teammates arrived at the ceremony in style when a helicopter brought them straight to the awards from the impressive 4-0 win victory over Swansea City. To another story, Belgium has extradited Paris attack suspect Salah Abdeslam to face trial in France. He was wounded and arrested in a dramatic raid in Brussels on March 18th after 4 months on the run. The 26-year-old French national was born in Brussels and lived there before the Paris attacks. He would be held in solitary confinement in a maximum security prison in the Paris area. According to French Justice Minister, the coordinator of the attacks carried out by the so-called Islamic State in Paris on November 13th claimed 130 lives and left dozens more severely wounded. Belgium's federal prosecutor said Salah Abdeslam had been surrendered to the French authorities this morning in execution of the European arrest warrant issued by France in March 19th. He was then formally placed under arrest. That was the end of our World in a Week. Back to you, Nadia.
Thank you, Mustafa. And moving on to world developments, disturbing video has been released showing a girl being rescued from under the rubble caused by airstrike in the Syrian city of Aleppo. Unfortunately, not all the scenarios end this way. In fact, just within the last week, more than 120 people are believed to have died in the city. No less than 18 of them were children. Karim Fasakri.
Screaming, "God is the greatest," praising any possible intervention that may have saved this girl's young life. She was caught in what is thought to be a government airstrike in a rebel-held area of Aleppo in Syria. Rescuers tore through the rubble to try to save her, and they did. Miraculously, she suffered no visible serious injuries. Earlier, her loved one combed through the destruction, unsure if this attack had taken her away from him forever. Not all stories end with a rescue, though. Within the last week, more than 120 people are thought to have lost their lives in the city. At least 18 of them children. The rising death toll once again shrouding any hopes of peace in dust and debris. The UN calling the situation catastrophic.
The stakes are so incredibly high because so many civilian lives are at stake. So many humanitarian health workers and relief workers are being bombed, killed, maimed at the moment, that the whole lifeline to millions of people is now also at stake.
Aleppo, the country's largest city, is at the epicenter of violence, and it is threatening any chance of ending the 5-year-long conflict. This girl's bruises seemingly evidence it's back to the business of war, without the false pretense of a ceasefire.
Rescuers say that 11 people have been found dead and 2 are missing after a helicopter crashed west of the Norwegian city of Bergen, carrying 13. 11 of those on board were Norwegians, 1 was British and 1 Italian. Iranians have lined up outside polling stations to vote in a second round of parliamentary elections, with allies of President Hassan Rouhani seeking to take seats from conservatives. Rouhani's reformist allies made major gains in February 26 elections to parliament and a clerical body that will elect the next supreme leader. But they failed to win a majority of the 220-member assembly. The current parliament is dominated by backers of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. South Africa's court has ruled that a decision to drop 783 corruption charges against President Jacob Zuma should be reviewed. The charges were dropped just weeks before the 2009 election, which led to Mr. Zuma becoming president. The case brought by the opposition Democratic Alliance opens the way for the prosecutors to reinstate the charges. Mr. Zuma always denied the allegations, which are linked to a government arms deal in the 1999 worth billions of dollars. Last week, a judge-led commission of inquiry found no evidence of corruption or fraud in the government officials at the time. In economy world news, oil futures gave up some gains Friday after OPEC's oil output rose in April to close to the highest level in recent history as production increases led by Iran and Iraq more than offset a strike in Kuwait and other outages. Geneva, Zachary.
Brent crude was heading for its biggest monthly rise in 7 years on Friday, touching 2016 highs as a weak dollar and falling U.S. production tempered concerns about an excess of physical oil. A looming rise in Middle East output capped gains, but investor sentiment held the optimism that has helped fit oil futures nearly 80% higher than January lows. Brent crude futures traded and changed from its prior settle at $48.14 a barrel. U.S. crude was up 31 cents at $46.34 a barrel, with both contracts hitting fresh 2016 highs. A rise is expected in production by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries due to climbing Iranian output and following outages in Iraq, Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates. Saudi output is expected to edge up by 350,000 barrels to around 10.5 million barrels per day, just as tankers filled with unsold oil are at sea seeking buyers. Still falling production outside OPEC, notably in the United States, raised hopes that the worst of the nearly 2-year excesses of oil was over. The average forecast for Brent in 2016 is to reach $42.30 per barrel, the second consecutive month of increases. Non-OPEC oil supply is indeed hanging off a cliff. In addition, global output would contract year-on-year in April or May for the first time since 2013.
All nations have a dark side, even the happiest country in the world, says Martin Zandvliet, the movie director of Land of Mines, which shines light on Denmark's war history. The movie is about a young German group of war prisoners who were made the enemy of a nation where they were forced to dig up 2 million land mines with their bare hands. Karim Fazakri again.
Nicht Ihr Freund. Für uns dienen Sie nur einem Zweck.
Land of Mine, a Danish-German co-produced film which opens on a rather unidentified section of World War II.
Seid ihr Soldaten?
The movie is directed by Denmark's Martin Zandvliet. It tells a story from the days following the surrender of Nazi Germany in May 1945.
Ihr werdet sie alle entschärfen. Wenn ihr das erledigt habt.
German war prisoners in Denmark are sent to remove landmines barehanded along the coast. Most of them very young boys. Half of them are either killed or gravely injured. The film's themes revolve around love and hate, revenge and reconciliation.
Stop!
The Jews flee to Sweden and all that, but there is also a dark chapter in Denmark where it's more the eye for an eye mentality. So that was important for me to tell that we're not just good people.
Hättest mir sagen müssen, dass es noch Kinder sind, Ebbe.
There was little in the way of documents about this part of history, so the director took on a lot of research himself in cemeteries, through hospital records, and talking to historians and seeing their archives.
Getan haben. Lieber sie als wir.
I did quite a lot of research, but it's mostly based on facts and numbers. There isn't a lot of books written about this. I think, it's a part of our chapter that historians somehow didn't want to write about, but maybe they will now.
Land of Mines started showing in German cinemas earlier this month.
Wiederhole. Es ist fast vorbei.
Es ist fast vorbei.
Ich komme wieder nach Hause.
Ich komme wieder nach Hause.
Ja.
And finally, ancient Andalusian music that narrates antique and cultural tales of Andalusia and Algeria started to be performed with modern touches. Lamia Ait Amara is a young, talented singer who has succeeded in doing this in a concert at Ibn Zaydoun Theatre Hall. Hinsim Daras.
Because she's keen on introducing the Andalusian musical heritage for young generations, singer Linda Ait Amara was able to put a modern touch on authentic Andalusian music, making a name for herself in the Andalusian musical scene.
J'aime bien quand j'ai un public déjà.
I love seeing a different audience, music lovers who appreciate Andalusian music, and also love seeing people who are strangers to this music genre. I made sure to bring new arrangements to my music by modernizing it, so it would attract more people to this authentic, noble music.
Apporter de modernisation à nos morceaux.
Despite the heavy competition going on in the musical scene with different types of musical genres, Andalusian music fans kept their loyalty, and why wouldn't they with singers like Lamia Ait Amara?
It went really well. We discovered a talented singer.
I'm overly pleased to see a heavy audience that came to enjoy a somewhat ancient musical genre, especially young people.
Thanks to Lamia, we discovered this rich musical heritage. We finally thank her orchestra, along with her amazing performance.
So it's the much-awaited musical comeback for this genuine artist, pending the coming out of a new album very soon.
The end of our English news edition, brought to you live from the news channel. For more news, visit our website and other social media networks. Thanks for watching. Bye.